We are here coming to you live.
The Kansas City Chiefs are going to the Super Bowl. You only win a Super Bowl 2 times every 5 years, right?
Oh!
The warm-up act is over. Let's bring in Melissa Etheridge, massive Chiefs fan. Melissa.
Super Bowl champion, 2-time Pro Bowler, and Trent Green. Trent Green, how you doing?
Hey, what's going on, guys?
And he picked it up! He picked it up! He's gonna score!
And we'll see you next week. But until then, as always, go Chiefs.
Take it easy on yourself. Dude, we're bundled up together like a trio. Me and Sterling and Adam Best, the Andrea Bargnani of the Chiefs announcing team here. Love it. Welcome to the first postseason pregame edition to what we hope is the first of 4 such episodes. Fellas, I'm freezing myself and I'm indoors. How cold are you right now, but how hot are you for the Chiefs' chances tonight?
I am hot for the Chiefs' chances. I'm going to watch the game outside in solidarity with everyone who's at Arrowhead. I'm being facetious, of course. I will have a heat warmer on in my basement. But I'm very excited because I think this is a very good matchup for Kansas City. The Chiefs cornerbacks, the secondary group the Chiefs possess, are one of the only, if not the only, position group in the entire NFL that I think can slow down not just the Dolphins' potent wide receivers, but also their very electric running game. They can get outside, they can tackle. So as you can tell already, I'm very excited about the Chiefs' chances.
Adam, what about you?
Yeah, it's a great matchup for us, I think, especially in this weather. The Chiefs have a fantastic pass rush, 2 of the best corners in the league. What you can't do with Tua Tagovailoa is let him get rid of the ball in 2 seconds or less. The Chiefs aren't going to allow that. They are going to pressure him, confuse him, make him hold on the ball, and make mistakes. He does not play well when he gets into that situation.
Yeah. If, there are some obvious talking points here. And what's really amazing is that Tyreek's homecoming, or even that we're talking in the postseason, are both points like 2 or 3, depending on how you take them, because, the first item of note here is just this weather. Like, how much do you think the weather is going to affect? We all talk about, like, in the stands, how cheap playoff tickets are, et cetera, like that. I want to start with the crowd factor. And Adam, I want to go to you with this. When playoff tickets are down to like $28, $25, et cetera, like, what sort of advantage does that create? What are you expecting to see tonight, crowd wise, in the first place? I would just love to start there.
Yeah, all these mainstream media predictions and predictions from other fan bases that the Arrowhead crowd is going to come out flat. I don't think that's going to be the case at all, because what this has done, the price drop has done, is made these tickets accessible to people who have probably never been to a playoff game in their life. And they're going to be revved up to 10. That place is going to be a zoo. I'm frothing at the mouth just thinking about it. I actually was at a game between Miami and Kansas City at Arrowhead in 2008 when it was -12 with the wind chill. And that was pretty miserable. But, everyone was for a game like this, you're not going to catch any fan off guard. There's not going to be anyone in the stands there. Oh, I didn't know it was going to be this cold. Like that, that happens sometimes. Everyone's going to be prepared and warmed up and ready. I expect it to be very loud.
This might be the first time in a while we hear after a Chiefs touchdown, we're gonna beat the hell out of you. Like that would not surprise me. Again, I'm 100% with you. It's a lot of folks that hopefully can go to a playoff game who might not have been able to go with the rise in ticket prices as the Chiefs are on this recent string of success, right? So if you've not gone for a long time, this will be awesome for you. This is historic. It's outstanding. Again, if you want to take a negative and try and turn it into a positive, I think that's the way you look at it.
Yeah. Sterling, let me go to you on this one. The weather, we've all read the same stats. Tua sucks. The Mahomes is 9-1 and in freezing weather. Tua's never touched a snowball in his entire life. Like we've all read these kind of things, right? But these are professional franchises, playoff caliber teams. They're gearing up. How much do you think the weather is being overplayed in terms of expected performance, or do you think that no, it's actually like right on, and the Chiefs have a major advantage here?
I think it's a little overblown in hell. One thing I'll finally say is I think Mike McDaniel actually got it right when he said, it only goes down to 50. You can't crank the AC down there and get you prepared for the weather you're going to feel. But this is a little bit different, okay? I understand it's the Midwest, but it's not like the Chiefs players are consistently outside practicing in this weather, right? It is a completely different beast, a different animal. I think in that instance, it's a little bit overblown. Again, I think the Chiefs have the advantage to an extent as far as you're not going to want to tackle Isaiah Pacheco in the fourth quarter, let alone the first touch of the game he gets. Devon Achane, Raheem Mostert, a little bit more finesse backs, while Pacheco's going to try and bring on the context. In that instance, I think it's a little bit more of an advantage for Kansas City, but same thing. I think the weather to an extent is overblown in the fact that this sucks for both teams. Like, this is a little bit unprecedented. It's not like Mahomes was out there throwing the ball all the time in negative three degree weather too, right? Once you get to this point, it just sucks for everyone.
Yeah. Adam, what's your take on that? Do you think it's overblown too, or no?
No, not as much as he does. I grew up in Missouri, of course, and then I've lived most of my adult life in very warm climates. And every time I go back to Missouri for this kind of cold or anything approaching this kind of cold, your tolerance just is not the same. And these guys live in Miami. It's going to be a little bit of a disadvantage just because it's harder for them to adjust. Also, the faster team, the more finesse team, which that used to be the Chiefs. It is no longer the Chiefs. The Chiefs have become a more physical, grind you down team with that defense, Steve Spagnuolo style, and of course, Isaiah Pacheco. I think this game environment favors the Chiefs.
I want to talk about inactives here. Let me just read through the list of inactive players. We'll go by each team because this is very important in a matchup like this. Coming into the contest today, the Dolphins had Jalen Waddle and Raheem Mostert as questionable, and then they ruled out Xavier Howard, which is a big loss in the secondary there. But the Dolphins inactives today: Robbie Chosen, wide receiver; Skylar Thompson, Javon Holland, defensive back; Tyler Kroft, Keon Smith, Cam Smith, and then Howard. Waddle is active. Mostert is active. That incredible backfield that Sterling just talked about. When you see that list and those two guys out there, Adam, how worried are you about the Chiefs facing this more robust, especially the running attack, than what they did in Germany?
Well, I think with the passing game, you just can't have any mishaps because either one of those guys can house it in an instant. With this running game, I think the key is to build a lead. You build a lead, you keep the Miami offense off the field, you impose their will on them so they can't do that to you. Because I think if Miami gets 30 rushing attempts, this game is over. The Chiefs cannot win that kind of game script because you give Devon Achane and Raheem Mostert and that scheme that many bites at the apple, they're going to break off some explosive runs, some huge chunk gains. So I think those are going to kind of be the keys to the Chiefs keeping all that in check.
Yeah. Sterling, let me go over the Chiefs inactive list with you, and then I want to talk about overall matchups with both of you. For the Chiefs, we all know Wanya Morris was already declared out, and then Justin Ross and Kadarius Toney were both questionable. For the Chiefs, it's the opposite. Both of the questionable guys are out. Justin Ross, Toney, both inactive. Then B.J. Thompson, Keith Taylor, cornerback, who, by the way, I cover this team for a living, and I went, who's Keith Taylor, cornerback? Anyway, Neil Farrell, and then Felix Anudike-Uzomah, FAU, is also questionable or is out for today as a healthy scratch. A little bit of a surprise there, maybe. What do you think when you see maybe Toney as the biggest name sitting out, or the Chiefs inactive list overall?
Uh, I think everyone's actually been freaking out by FAU, and I think that's such a non-starter because he's not been playing during the regular season. Why was he all of a sudden going to get a chunk of snaps in the playoffs? Makes no sense. I don't think the Chiefs could even trust Tony at this point, so that's not a surprise to me. I know we talk about his electric ability, but since he didn't play Week 18, you have no idea. He was already a liability, even albeit with a ton of talent. You can't trust that in a win or go home game, especially in what might be a lower scoring game where turnover margin, where just not having mistakes is going to help in this game. You can't trust that guy. So for me, I think McCole Hardman did enough. You're going to get a probably decent dosage of him. Hopefully we see less MVS, but it's going to be the Rashee Rice, Justin Watson, Travis Kelce, who should be the healthiest he has been pretty much ever since the week 1 got underway. This was not a huge surprise to me as far as the inactive list for Kansas City.
Okay. I want to take what each of you said to the other. Sterling, I'll start with you. When Adam says, hey, look, if they get 30 rushes tonight, if that backfield gets that many bites at the apple, it's over. You agree with that?
Yes, I do think sometimes rushing numbers can be a little wonky because a lot of times you're going to run the football when you're leading. So those rush numbers might be elevated overall. But I do think it's going to be paramount in this game to run the football. And I think Pacheco is the guy you run with. And the way that Clyde's been running as the season's progressed has been fun to watch. He's been a little bit more explosive than we have seen from him. He's been more physical, a little harder to bring down. I've always laughed and said he looks like Eddie Lacy now, but he's also performing like prime Eddie Lacy. I do think running the football will make a difference. So if you get 30 touches from those two guys, I would love the Kansas City Chiefs' chances.
Adam, what about you? What do you think of what he said about Kadarius? Do you think do you agree that's really not a big loss, not having him on the field? I'm bullish on his dynamism, so I guess I wonder what you think.
In a perfect world, I am too, but he has lost confidence in himself. The team has lost confidence in him. He hasn't been a contributor for quite some time. They're used to not relying on him. So I don't think he's going to be missed. It's, a squandered opportunity for him and a bummer for the franchise, but they have to move on with the guys they got. And I think with Rashee Rice really popping, McCole Hardman showed us something last week. Maybe he is the healthiest he's been since he had that early season run last year. If you remember, he was racking up the red zone scores. Yeah. So I'm hoping that we can replace a little bit of that Kadarius Toney magic from last postseason with McCole, who wasn't available in the previous playoff run.
Yeah. Adam, back to you on this one. I want to ask about one player who's missing here. The Chiefs have made a star out of whoever that third down back, like Damian Williams should have his own like star on whatever walk of fame is around there. And then Jet McKinnon, no Jet going on. We saw P. Ryan last week. Clyde is still around. Those are the names that we know behind Pacheco, but that guy, that sort of scat back third down role is really not on the roster right now. At a time where we've used them heavily, like to the tune of like 10 touchdowns in a single postseason run. Right. What do you think of that absence here? And does that worry you?
It does worry me because that's been a key component to the 2 Super Bowl championships. But Rashee Rice is coming on. Like I said, I think we can get him involved in the screen game. McCole Hardman, maybe Richie James. We're going to have to get creative out there because you're right, that guy is just not on the roster. P. Ryan and CEH aren't going to bring that explosive element that Jerick McKinnon and especially Damian Williams, who can break one off at any time, gave the Chiefs. So it's a different look, and that's okay because this is a different style for the Chiefs. They don't need to score 40 points to beat you because of their defense. So I think this particular brand, this strain of Chiefs is more, wear you down and grind out a victory. It's not going to be as pretty as it has in the past, but like Sterling said, good luck tackling Isaiah Pacheco tonight in the fourth quarter after he's gotten like 20 carries.
What's interesting to me, earlier I read on Twitter, people were talking about that actually pass blocking is easier in this kind of weather than run blocking. I mean, although the rusher may have like an easier time, the actual offensive line themselves has an easier time pass blocking than they do run blocking. And this is, we're talking about the effectiveness of the run game here. I want to bring that to either one of you. What do you guys think of that as maybe a curveball here that we haven't thought about? The fact that, you know, if you try to send the house, you're sending the house on this icy terrain. Like if you're Spags, you're trying to generate pressure on ice. And whereas, you know, Mahomes may have a better time of it by having like guys kind of slip around. Like, what do you think of that? Go to you, Sterling.
I can't wait for Miami to come up with an excuse about the field after this game, right? Just a long list of Eagles and now the Dolphins complaining about the field not being able to get a footing. It made sense, actually. Was it Bill Belichick talking about in the 2009 playoffs? If I'm not mistaken, I think that was the season they were talking about how the offensive line actually had the advantage pass blocking there. Yeah, I think it's an interesting wrinkle, but I still wonder, especially in this cold, throwing the football, how much of a strain will that be on Mahomes? How accurate will you be able to throw the football when your hands are blocks of ice? I know they have all this technology on the sideline. They're going to try and keep warm. Second you take your hands out, they're going to start getting frozen. What are those touch passes going to look like? Okay, that might be a little interesting there. And then some of the receivers who have already had drop issues, I'm still a little nervous there. So while I think it makes sense that, it might be easier to pass block because the defensive linemen are going to have a little issue getting their footing, it might be a little bit of a wash.
Yeah. Adam, what do you think of that?
Well, I think we have the advantage on both lines. Our defensive line, you know, you compare our defensive line to their defensive line. They've got 3 senior citizens rushing the passer. Brandon Irvin, you know, and the two former Chiefs, right?
Yeah, Tyson Jackson and Glenn Dorsey. Yeah.
Might as well be, right? These guys are all 34 and 36. Wouldn't be much of a difference if they were 38. And then the big difference in the offensive lines, Terron Armstead is obviously a really good player, but the Chiefs interior in a game like this, I think is going to make a huge difference. Joe Tooney, first team All-Pro. We still do not talk about him enough. Creed Humphrey, we also don't talk about him enough. And then Trey Smith, probably the nastiest guy in the field. He was made in a laboratory for a game like this. So I'm excited for us to dominate the line of scrimmage. I think that's probably going to be the key to the game tonight. We talk about all these exciting skill players, but that's probably what's going to decide it.
I love that quote, by the way. Like made in a laboratory for a game like this. Trey Smith. I need that distilled somehow.
He's nasty, man.
Yeah.
I want to ask you guys this because I think we're all in agreement here. The interior 3, we have no qualms about. Those guys are probably going to dominate. And even with the injuries and potential lack of a legitimate pass rush from the Dolphins, you know, Jawaan Taylor's had his struggles this season. It's going to be very important. He does not have any penalties to put the Chiefs behind the sticks. A penalty in a game like today with even fewer potential explosive plays, maybe less opportunities that you try and actually pass the football, every single holding call might be a drive ender. Jawaan Taylor has to be on his game. On the other side, Donovan Smith finally back from that neck injury. Wanya Morris not active. He has a concussion, right? So Donovan Smith now back inserted into the lineup. He's had his injury issues. He's not been good in run blocking. What is your guys' concern level at left tackle specifically with Donovan Smith?
Yeah, I mean, I'm concerned. I'm concerned that the guy is already injured and the guy behind him is injured and the guy behind him is injured, and Prince Tega Winogo, for that matter, who I have a jersey of, by the way, only one in Chiefs Kingdom, I'm sure. I'll say this, though. Remember, for all the flack that we gave Frank Clark for not producing enough in the regular season, this is the moment. This is the moment where a player can dramatically turn around his reputation with a fan base by showing up big in these games when it counts. If Jawaan Taylor plays mistake-free football and allows Patrick Mahomes a clean pocket to do what he can do and the Chiefs win a game, that's going to go a long way toward forgetting the regular season penalties, for putting aside the $20 million a year. Like, a lot of people are able to look back favorably at Frank, despite maybe having like 6 sacks in a regular season, because he did so well in the postseason. So I'm looking at some of those guys and thinking, hey, they know what's at stake. They know the motivation, and they know that they have a blank check to play with right now. And I think they may want to take advantage of that. So, which, by the way, Donovan Smith's playing for another contract,
Right.
if he wants to be signed there too. So there's a lot of motivation here.
We'll just time travel back to last season when Andrew Wiley and Orlando Brown Jr. came into the postseason. More pressures allowed than any other tackle duo in the league. And then by the time the Super Bowl rolled around, 0 sacks. They were to quote Full Metal Jacket, born again hard in the playoffs. I mean, it was a real transformation with those two guys. So this is the perfect game against those AARP pass rushers for Donovan Smith and Jawan Taylor to kind of get in a groove and find their rhythm.
Yeah.
One thing I think is interesting is special teams. Kicking the football would suck ass. I mean, I would hate to be a punter. I'm going to be honest with you. Tommy Townsend, I do not envy your foot in this game. That is going to be miserable. But I was talking to Nick Lowry, former Chiefs kicker, and he said, I was like, how much does this type of cold affect the ball itself? He goes, anywhere from 6 to 10 yards difference is what it's going to be. So if it's a 50-yarder, it's going to be more like a 58, potential 60-yarder in this weather. So something to keep in mind. Butker has a very big leg, but I wonder how that affects even some decision-making. Let's say it's normally a 54-yard field goal. Normally you trot Butker out. But let's say it's like 4th and 4 and it's a 54-yard field goal. Do you keep the offense on the field? There's going to be a lot of interesting dynamics in regards to what you can and can't do. I also wonder if on kickoffs, we might see more balls in play. If the ball's not carrying all the way to the back of the end zone, maybe some guys take that out. I'm wondering what we will see in regards to special teams tonight.
Yeah. I'm a little worried what we're going to see.
Yeah.
If you have a team that has little margin for error, like the Chiefs, and then you introduce inclement weather and substandard playing conditions in that, in which that increases the variables, not decreases them, that's not a good match. Just simple science. So I trust the Chiefs to take care of their issues, but the weather may undermine some of that. And so some of the special teams miscues that we've seen, I mean, it only takes one in postseason to earn some sort of permanent moniker, permanent nickname, permanent play name, 13 seconds, whatever we call it. And
the
then
Matt Kemp game. Marcus Kemp game. Surprising, not the former center fielder for the Dodgers, but Marcus Kemp.
There it is. There it is. Yeah, you know what I'm saying. So, I hope that the Chiefs are coached up well, ready to go, focusing on the fundamentals because things will get out of hand real quick there.
Yeah, the flip side to that is that they're basically the most penalized team in the league, especially offensively. Turnover differential, one of the worst in the league. If they clean that up and they had essentially a bye week, the players that really matter outside of Chris Jones, maybe we see a different team. Maybe they do flip the switch a little bit and turn it up a notch and don't shoot themselves in the foot. Because with this defense, if the offense doesn't shoot themselves in the foot, there are a lot more paths to victory than there used to be.
Yeah. Yeah.
What do you guys think here? No Holland, no Xavier Howard. Jalen Ramsey, we have seen at times go up one-on-one against Travis Kelce. First off, that's not worked well for Jalen Ramsey. But let's just say, for example, the Dolphins do try and put Ramsey on Travis Kelce. Well, then, is that Eli Apple going up against Rashee Rice? Because that's burnt chicken, baby. I mean, that is an apple you find with worms coming at it because that thing is disgusting. Ain't nobody touching that. Just how he won't be touching Rashee Rice as he burns past him. So my point is, I really like the little matchups, whichever way it goes, whoever's on who, because then if it is Ramsey on Rashee Rice, well, that means someone who's not Xavier Howard or Holland will be on Travis Kelce. There's going to be a mismatch, even as bad as a lot of the Chiefs' wide receiving options have been, with a healthy Kelce, at least healthier Kelce, with Rashee Rice coming into his own as a bona fide, I think, back-end wide receiver one. I think we can actually start having that conversation. You're sitting here going, do you actually like the Chiefs' weapons in regards to the pass game tonight?
Yeah, you have to, especially considering the way Travis Kelce and Rashee Rice can rack up yak in the open field. There are another couple guys that you're not going to want to tackle. Those aren't small guys either. So I probably wouldn't, if I was Vic Fangio, put Jalen Ramsey on Travis Kelce, seeing what happened the last time. Jalen Ramsey attempted to shadow Kelce here in Kansas City, of course, with the Rams. That did not work out, very well for Ramsey. He was on the receiving end of a highlight, but we'll see what they do. I think teams probably still fear Kelce more than they do Rashee Rice. So I guess that their game plan is to take Kelce out of things. That's still Mahomes' security blanket, make him uncomfortable, make someone else beat you. But I don't know that they'll be able to do that with both Rice and Kelce. And I think that's what Sterling's getting at.
Yeah. Hey, let me ask you guys this. Tyreek Hill, we haven't really talked about this as the proper homecoming. We all know what he can do. We enjoyed watching him for years as a likely future Hall of Famer here in KC. What are you expecting tonight in his return, both in terms of crowd response and on-field production?
As far as on-field production, I think what he did in Germany is probably going to be in line of what he does tonight. If you gave me the over/under for Tyreek at 70 yards, I'm going the under.
Interesting.
I don't think that the Dolphins try and pass a lot tonight. I don't believe in Tua. I don't believe in Tua in the cold. I believe in L'Jarius Sneed. Talking to Troy Polamalu earlier this week, what did he say? He said, this type of cold always benefits the defense. He goes, unless you're Patrick Mahomes and he's a wizard, basically he can do it in all different types of weather. So I love L'Jarius Sneed going up against Tyreek Hill yet again. That's why I love the Chiefs corners. They're very, very physical in regards to Waddle and Hill. Normally they burn by guys. They don't when it's Trent McDuffie and L'Jarius Sneed. I think Tyreek Hill doesn't do anything this game.
What scares me about Tyreek is he hasn't been talking at all. I think he learned his lesson last time. He has something to prove tonight. I think he's going to try to come out and put on a show. I do think he'll have a big play. Mike McDaniel's a very good coach, very good offensive mind. He'll scheme something up for Tyreek. I don't think it will ultimately be enough, but I think he's going to come out here and play well and make some things happen like Tyreek always does. We know Tyreek from experience is pretty good in these cold games. You'd think that maybe that would hurt a guy like that speed. That has never been the case. He's been good in snow games, good in cold games. So
I will say though, Bess, talking with some Miami guys a couple of days ago, he's been injured. He's been banged up. He's been dropping the ball the last month of the season. He's had some issues. I don't see him. I'm not trying to disagree with you because he has had some big moments in big time games. Obviously, the snow game in Denver, he caught the Mahomes touchdown pass, right?
Right.
But I'm just sitting here going, he's had a bad month. He's injured. He's trying to fight through it, and now he's had drop issues. I don't see him all of a sudden now going up against the best lockdown corner against wide receiver ones in the entire NFL and busting out of the slump. I don't see it happening tonight.
The other thing that could be an issue is Tua's arm, especially in this weather. He's made a habit of kind of being hesitant on the vertical strikes and really underthrows Tua quite a bit. I mean, Tyreek quite a bit. So that could be a problem for Tyreek too. Just his quarterback doesn't have the cannon to get him the ball.
Yeah. If the Finns go 1-and-out, the Mike McDaniel mystique largely disappears at this point, right? Going into year 3 next year.
Maybe more the Tua. I guess it depends how the game goes, but
Sure.
I laugh though. I do think Mike McDaniel is who Josh McDaniels thought he was, right? Like Mike McDaniel, I feel like is like a smart guy. He's actually does his things his own way, always out on a limb. You either love him or you hate him, but he's kind of his own guy, right? You can't take it away from Mike McDaniel. Josh McDaniels thought he was that. The only difference is Josh McDaniels was 2 scoops of ass everywhere he went. So
There it is.
yeah.
There
Plus
it is.
McDaniel's players hate him, and this guy in Miami seems beloved by his players. So there's that.
Hey, we're coming up on game time. I want to get your official predictions in before we go. Adam, I'll go to you. What are you looking for tonight? Any X factor and your final score prediction?
I think the X factor for me, other than Isaiah Pacheco, who's going to be a dominant force, is Charles Omenihu. Last year in this round in the NFC for the 49ers, he had 2 sacks and a forced fumble early in that game. Was a force of nature. He's really coming on. He has 5.5 sacks in his last 6 games, 2 forced fumbles. I think he's going to come up big again. My prediction is 27-10. It's not going to be all that close.
I like your Charles O prediction. That's a nice one. I think it's a really apt one from you, Best. You've been on him ever since he got to Kansas City. I am going Nick Bolton, by the way, as this is the rookie edition of the Nick Bolton jersey, of course. Going Nick Bolton, I think linebacker play will be paramount for the Kansas City Chiefs. Obviously, if I expect the Dolphins to run the ball a lot, that means you got to have a good linebacker group getting it downhill and wrapping up. Make sure you tackle. Doesn't the cold feel like Nick Bolton just shaking hands, right? Nick Bolton in the cold, just wrecking dudes. That seems right down Nick Bolton's alley. I got the Chiefs winning at 23-17.
I think the X factor here is attrition. I think that, at this point, teams are just lucky to have who they have to go to war with. And the Dolphins are down Chubb. They're down Jalen Phillips. Imagine if the Chiefs came into this game without Omenihu, Karlaftis, and Dana, and that's what they have up front. We already talked about the secondary injuries. The Dolphins just aren't going to win this game, period, with those injuries. And the weather only amplifies the differences between these two teams. So I agree with Adam. I don't even think it's going to be really that close. I'm going to be honest. I think it's like 21-10.
No, anytime Connor says that, it's always a nail biter. Anytime he says it's not going to be close, it's as close as possible.
That's the name of that game. So yeah, that's what we think. Although that's very true about my predictive streaks. Well, folks, man, thank you so much for ever hanging out with us here on the pregame show. We will be back at halftime with the full breakdown of what's going on in the first half here in the frigid air of Arrowhead Stadium. And then we'll be here for post-game as well. So stay tuned with us. Come hang out with us fellow addicts for the game. But also enjoy watching the game. And thanks for hanging out with us here. As always, go Chiefs and stay warm on tonight. We'll see you soon.